Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be talking about static and dynamic with regards to programming and what that is. I have spoke with, I don't know, perhaps 20, perhaps more than 20 different programmers up there. If The idea behind it was if I would be able to find a team or group of individuals or of the company who I could potentially subcontract to do some of the work that would be required for my company, so that I have a large project. And out of that project, I can subcontract programming teams to do some of that work for me, right? But from even from I don't know 10, 15 minutes of having conversation with some of those people out there, I can understand that myself without having industry expertise and knowledge. I haven't been doing it for 5 or 10, 20 years. I know a little bit more than they do, so or I can structure what will be required. If anything, I can structure better questions to ask, how to structure a project, what will be required with regards to project, and how to do it. It's such a, perhaps to most group of people up there, especially if they haven't done it or worked with computers for a very long time, that can be a daunting task, if anything, right? And if anything, I personally believe that some of this work is overpriced. That's my personal opinion. It's currently overpriced, whole industry overpriced. Unless supply and demand, since I'm currently on the topic of economic, and I'm finishing that book. But perhaps I'll finish it this week or next week about supply and demand and how your skills and how to develop your skills and then how to manage overall once you develop carpentry skills and later you need to monitor supply of those skills and how it can raise prices. Some of those books there about up to date capitalism and how to manage supply and demand on some of the services, right? Overall, that's our mindset. That's the books there, right? So either way, so the less people know how to program and build the websites, starting with build some of the softwares, the more you can charge those people. And I personally believe those some of those services are overcharged right now. Unless I'm doing it, then I'm charging a lot of people who haven't done their own homework and do not understand how to build those softwares. Then I'm charging some of those projects 30, 50, 100,000 pounds. But perhaps that's how economy works by supply and demand. The less supply there is up there, and more demand for development of IT projects there is, the more people can charge for that, right? So that's 101 economics, right? Well, I don't know if that's sacrificing your own skills, knowledge, time, expertise by underpricing your services, especially if you can build some of those projects within a matter of weeks and charge for thousands and thousands. That's just supply and demand. There's no emotions there. Some people might want to bring my own words back to me, perhaps if not now and perhaps later on about the supply and demand, right? So it's something that you don't know, most likely you're gonna be overpaying for it. If we were to begin with static and dynamic and what that is, all terms commonly used in various contexts to describe different characteristics or qualities of something. Let's take a look at some of the general meanings. Static refers to something that remains unchanged or fixed over time. In programming and computer science, static can refer to static data, variables or objects. Those values do not change during the execution of the program. Some of the websites can be static or dynamic. Most of the websites, if we were to take 100% of all entire websites, right, 95 are dynamic, not static. But there are websites up there that are static. So if we were to begin, if I were a programmer and if I had to ask questions, what kind of website would you like to build? Perhaps that's an options there, all right? What kind of, would you like it to move, pop out? Do you want to do a lot of actions, or you prefer to keep it static, right? Static methods that belong to a class rather than an instance and do not depend on the state of object. Static websites are websites with a fixed content that doesn't change based on user interactions or data inputs. In physics, static can refer to an object or system at rest without motion. So overall, just the overall concept of static and how this concept can be implemented, and how you can understand software and how that software was coded with what in mind, and some of the software solutions I can think of. But either way, static, do not move, stays, or everything stays without emotion, compared to dynamic. Dynamic refers to something that is characterized by change, movement, or activity over time. In programming and computer science, dynamic can refer to dynamic data, uh, variables, or objects. Those values can change during the execution of the program. Dynamic methods can be called on instance of a class and may depend on the current state of object. Dynamic website, a website that can change its content based on user interactions or data input, often involving several site scripting. So that is more challenging perhaps to build some of those websites and how you need to host that website. So there's more obstacles to that, but overall, as the static and dynamic. Let's take a look at static websites. Static websites are simpler to create and are suitable for websites with content that doesn't change frequently. Examples of static websites include personal blogs, portfolio sites, informational websites, and landing pages. So it's simple to build. If we're talking about price range, you looking at entry point, perhaps something that you need to. Ideally, myself, I would look for payment methods. If I would were to build a website, or I would be looking at someone to build a website for me. If there is a landing page, not necessarily just a landing page, I can understand what purpose of landing page, but myself, if I would do that, I would put there payment type, and so people can make a payment straight away. So only difference there. So that would be me. Otherwise, there's no real purpose to have that. At least to take credit card information, or have a link into or different businesses that would be able to take payment there. Then I could understand the website and why people would choose perhaps some of the functionality and all the static websites, and how easy and how fast it could be to build some of those websites there. In some cases, business may choose to have static homepage with dynamics sections, such as blogs or news feeds. So there's hybrids, right? Dynamic websites are more complex and are required for sites with interactive features, user-generated content, e-commerce functionality, or databases. Examples of dynamic websites include social media platforms, e-commerce stores, online forums, and website applications, and perhaps plugins and all the other features. So most of the websites, I can tell you right now, most of the websites out there, they are dynamic. So it's not static, dynamic. But functionality and price might be static. But either way, if you are building, perhaps you can start with the static and progress. It's just hosting might be a different challenge. Either way, do your own research. If anything, do your own research. So, those of you who would like to learn more, I have published the book. Name of the book is Rise Impact. In this book, I'm sharing a lot of information. What will be required of you to build a business, and where to begin when starting your livestock enterprise. In the book, I'm sharing a lot of information on where to begin and how to reach milestones. In particular, how to reach first milestone, that will be from zero to $10,000, euros, pounds, and how to achieve this milestone. I'm sharing a lot of information for those of you who need to brush off your skills, knowledge, and where to begin to become perhaps more independent, how to run your own enterprise, some of the lessons that I'm drawing from other people, and some of the examples of how they did it, and where or some of the areas that you should consider. You can find this book in the description below, as well as Top Retailers has it. Then choosing between static and dynamic, some of the things or challenges to consider. That would be limited for static. That would be limited interactivity. Static websites are typically less interactive and dynamic than their counterparts. If your website requires user interactions, real-time updates, or complex forms, a static website may not be suitable. Content updates. Making updates to content on static website can be sub, subversive, as it often involves the manual editing of HTML files. This can be challenging if your site has frequently changing information. Scalability. Static websites can become challenging to manage as they grow in size and complexity. Maintaining consistency across large number of static pages can be difficult. Search functionality. Implementing robust search features on a static website can be challenging, especially for large content libraries. Dynamic website challenges. Development complexity. Dynamic websites typically require more complex development compared to static ones. You may need to contact management system, content management system, CMS, database, and server-side scripting skills. There are a lot of tutorials and informational material up there. I'm here to scare you, I guess. Performance, depending on the complexity of the dynamic website and the service resources available. Dynamic sites can be slower to load compared to static ones. But you can improve that based on image quality and other things that or areas that you can potentially improve. Security. Dynamic websites can be more vulnerable to security threats such as SQL injections or cross-site scripting. XSS. It's not properly secure and maintained, so there are some challenges there. Maintenance and updates. Dynamic websites often require ongoing maintenance, including software updates, security patches, and database management. It depends. It depends. Cost. The development or maintenance cost of dynamic websites can be higher due to the need for service resources, databases, and potentially more extensive development efforts. Overall, do your own research before doing anything. Take it with a grain of salt, but I don't like the saying. Thanks for watching. Let's see you next one.